So our objective in putting on these Chautauqua events is to give you the best information that we can about important and controversial issues. Our method for doing that is to get a group of people together who are knowledgeable and ask them to have a friendly, collegial discussion, something that we might not see a lot of these days. But we think that's the best way to help you understand the issue. So we're not trying to convince you of any particular position. We're not a political action group of any kind. Rather, our objective is to simply inform you about these interesting and complex and controversial issues.
Fracking put our oil use front and center for a lot of people in this state to just sort of step back and say, you know, how do I drive to my fracking protest? You know, how do I wrestle with my own addiction to oil and the way that this economy is functioning, I think.
And so the parties and the party structure, as you talked about a little bit earlier, Cindy, has changed so much to where now both parties, I think, are having their strings pulled by the hard right or the hard left. And they're rewarded for being antagonistic. They're rewarded for being angry with each other. And if you compromise with the other side, it's tantamount to treason.
The topics are fair, but the balance of power is not fair. And the balance of power of the federal government on the issue of endangered species or plants or whatever it is a so disproportionate fight. United Water Conservation District has an annual budget of about $18 million a year. In the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to take on $250 to $300 million worth of capital projects, and it will not produce one new drop of water.
The reason I mention this is because Rush Limbaugh the last few days has been telling his millions of audiences that the coverage of Hurricane, was it Matthew?
Matthew.
Was basically designed to fool the public into believing in climate change.
I think the use of anonymous sources has gotten out of control. I think it's very difficult for the news consumer to figure out what's accurate. I do find it hilarious when this administration says that if someone doesn't put a name on it, you can't trust it and don't trust anonymous sources when they themselves are often the anonymous source in a story.
The Chautauqua has been very special for me because we have had so much expertise on subjects that are important and relevant, and I have learned a great deal from all of those speakers and been able to get a much deeper understanding of issues that are impacting our lives today. But the most important thing about the Chautauqua to me is that it is one of the rare times when you are able to sit and listen to diverse points of view about very controversial subjects and highly emotionally packed subjects, and do it in a cool, calm, intellectual way so that you can learn from disparate points of view.
Therein lies the problem. This is the most depressing election I have ever seen. And I'm not talking about the candidates, I'm not even talking about what happened last night. I'm talking about what it says about the electorate, that there is such an unbelievable disconnect in terms of commonality of interest between sections of the country.
Our governmental system requires compromise and deal-making. That's the way it works because we have a separation of powers. I'll just tell you that Bill Clinton once was confronted by a Tea Party lady at a meeting a few years ago, and she stood up and she said, "I'm a Tea Party supporter, and I believe there's nothing more important than principle. And our politicians have no principles. They're ready to compromise and make a deal over anything, and every deal means selling out." And Bill Clinton listened to her politely, and he said, "Madam, read the Constitution of the United States. It might as well be called, let's make a deal."
But when I told our panelists about the extraordinary experience when I came and visited you for the Chautauqua program last year, when I told them about a community that wanted to come together, not to debate, not for a food fight, but for a legitimate and honest and interesting and respectful conversation about the challenges that we face as a community and a state, in a country and a world, every single person on the stage was excited to come back to be part of a conversation like that one. Because as you know, conversations like that are in very short supply in 21st century America. And I must tell you that what all of you do here, what every one of you is a part of, is something that's not just impressive, it's something that's inspiring.